Saludo, mi gente. Welcome to Priestessing the Portions. It's your hostess, Kohene Angelique, also known as Ya. And I wasn't going to record this. I'm actually, to my difficulty, on the first day or the beginning of my moon time. And so between that and my apartment being somewhat of a sauna on the second floor, I was in quite the mood. If you want to get to know me a little bit better, then please know that any sensorial discomfort is overstimulating for me, and I have often short of a meltdown internally because I am so hot. And I just turn into a big baby whiny pants when I am incredibly uncomfortable. And perimenopause doesn't help with that. But having said that, I'm sitting here journaling, and I had recorded something about Shelach, but the parasha portion of this week that just passed. But I also just decided to just step back from it. And I want to name, before I talk about it, I want to name the political climate, the war climate, all of the things, and just make note that it was difficult to think of talking about this parasha portion when the very bones of an old belonging wound, or disbelonging, is so active and so present, and simultaneously there are things inside of this parasha portion that to me is also the story and the stories of humans that are incredibly complex. It just so happens to be that my delicious lineage that has so many things inside of it also has a deep connection to this Torah. And because I do, and because it is, I can see it as human stories as well as a spiritual text speaking to things that sometimes are unseen before our eyes. And I can hold that with recognizing that the opportunity to talk about Shelach for me is coming from this place of wanting to address and wanting to talk about this journey that we are having an eye into, a vision of, this journey of being in a state, an experience of oppression and suppression, depression, all of the shuns, right? And what happens when you are freed from that, and yet you still don't know how to shift your mind from that. And because you don't know how to shift your mind, you have experiences that are constantly causing you to figure out where you're located, rather than having already a clear sense of purpose and knowing of where you're going, or rather the conviction of something that's greater. And in this portion, there's pieces that I think are worthy of observing and learning from. So again, this week's parasha portion is Shelach Lecha, send for yourself. Listen, I think that stuff is sexy, okay? When you have agency, autonomy, and sovereignty coming into the conversation around humans and around divinity or the divine, that shit lights me up to no end. I'm like, yes, let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about where is the choice. Let's talk about where is the opportunity for sovereignty and agency. Because when we talk about those things, we're talking about hope. We're talking about faith. We're talking, when we're like, oh, this may be an alternative. We're saying that this report. Let me stop because I want to do the blessing. All right, here it is. This is the blessing before the Torah. And again, if you are unsure what I'm using the Siddur HaKohanot, a Hebrew priestess prayer book by Jill Hammer and Taya Sher, beloved teachers. And I'm on page 180, which is the Torah service. And so the blessings, I'm just going to say them in English so that it feels very clear for everyone. Blessed is wisdom, the fountain of blessing. Blessed is wisdom, the fountain of blessing forever. This is usually done in a call and response way. So, blessed is wisdom, the fountain of blessing forever. Blessed is the indwelling spirit of the world who has ripened us along with the peoples of the earth and has given us the unique wisdom of the Torah. Blessed are you, Shekhinah, who is always giving the Torah. Okay, so let's go back to this. Amen. I'm ready to jump in. Because what we have in this Parsha portion is, what is it? Like the hero's journey or the collective journey, the collective state of liberation. So why I say collective, because now we're talking about a community. Now we're talking about a bunch of people who through, if you will, fire and wind and earth and water have been unfurled into a choice, into a journey of choice. And here's the part that to me, when we're looking at this journey, is so fascinating, because there's this way that learning to know the seasons and the times is imperative, in a very general and broad way of saying that, right? For everything and everyone, learning to read the seasons and the times are really important. And there's seasons within seasons and cycles within cycles, right? It's not a linear thing. And as a collective humanity, we're being awoken abruptly from wherever we have anchored linear expression and thinking, binary expression and thinking. I know it looks like the clock is turned back, and trust me, you will find no more fervent a person to have a whole cursing fest around the fuckery going on and the impact that it's having. And what I want to say that sounds, it doesn't have a measure for it, is that there has always been and there will always be more than the fuckery. There will always be more than the fuckery. And I think that there is a part of losing sight of that which is greater, losing sight of that, like losing sight of your faith and your hope. Fair enough if you cannot muster enough anything to see that as a divinity, as a deity or whatever. Fair enough. Then the highest hope that you can have for us as humans is the one of love. However that love is displayed, meaning that the love can be it can be like, familial love. It can be sibling like love, right? Different expressions of love that can exist. Then lean on that, because what we have to remember is that this is not the end of the story. This is not the end of the story. It never fucking is. And so while we're dealing with the enormous amount of fuckery, here's where I can dive into the pieces of this Torah portion. If you can take it out of any rigidity you have it stuck in, any theology you have it stuck in, any sageism you have it locked into, any halakha, you have anything that may come up for you, then I would invite you to actually take the time inside of this and inside of this thought to say to yourself, hey, I recognize that there is a story, there is a journey here, there is a report that has been given. We're talking about back into the parasha portion. Here you hear a lot of the griping. There's been griping going on. Things are getting really restless. There's like a moment of what my mother would have called the honeymoon, where everybody's excited about the freedom up until people's bullshit starts showing up, right? And then you see things for what they are, the rush comes down and you regulate. And when you start regulating, then there's a bit more clarity. You're not, being love bombed by hormones. And it's kind of the same thing that we're seeing in here. We're seeing, Moshe's siblings are complaining. The people are complaining. No adjustment, nothing that's being done is sufficient. And now, there's a spine of the lamb. There's a vision and a hope for the future. And there's an understood plan. There's an understood plan that has been birthed out of a deep wounding of disbelonging. And I can say this and hold that Hashem knows all things. The divine knows all things. Knows the plan, knows the pieces, however you see that. I can trust that and still say that at no point do we not have a choice, right? And I can think of, Avraham Avinu, right? The discussion about, if there's this many people left or if there's this many people left, right? It's a big conversation. It is a huge, huge, huge conversation about what does it actually mean to contend with a narrative born out of pain, a narrative that no one wants to repeat. And yet somehow when you are given this intergenerational, generational, whatever you want to call it, narrative and story of belonging, of what it means to have home and shelter, and what it means to have agency, right? We're living inside of the story and being able to transform the story and ask questions of the story. The story is telling us something very specific. And then it tells us a little bit more about where people are at in relationship to the story. I'm thinking about Joshua and Caleb. I'm thinking about... I'm thinking about the other spies who were like, having a bitch fest. I'm thinking about all the layers of the archetypes that exist inside of this that are not just, I know that there's a lot of bone to pick with Israel right now. And for some, there always has been. And we got to, that's what it is. It is what it is in that way where folks are like, I was going to say it is what it is, but I don't mean it in that way. What I mean by that is that there has always been a tension, right? But inside of this, there's this conversation that needs to be had about the wounding that created the response, the reaction, the retelling of the same story of disbelonging, the same story of being desired by the evil eye, if you will, right? And I think that if we look at these stories and we look at the beginning of a people, any fucking people, and the people are not, the people are a big thing. They're a big thing and they're very fickle. And there's a lot of views. There's always a lot of views, right? There's always a lot of opinions. But here we get to observe and watch this story play out. The honeymoon, the liberation, the honeymoon period, then the quick adjustment and regulation, and then people have all different types of complaints, even his siblings. You go from there, and when you start looking at it, right, then you go with there's some drama in the land. It's like, holy shit, there's some drama. There's this thing they got to go check out. They're having all this infighting already. They're having all this crazy shit going on already. Now they got to go. Now there's this project. There's this thing. And inside of this thing, most people, right? Even the spies that were afraid or cantankerous or whatever the case may be, inside of all of them, there was hope and faith. The demonstration and the display of the fear that accompanied it, the choice between courage and cowardice, was available to everyone. And what you have is people reacting and relating to the story in their own way, right? You have the ones that are hopeful, the ones that are keeping the vision and the story exactly how it is, right? All the hope. The other ones are so used to the misery, so used to the pain, so used to the journey, so worn from it, that the only thing they could see was more work. More work and more opportunity to be like overthrown, conquered, or worse, loss of life, right? Just like more work in this long journey. Does this sound familiar to you in our humanity, as people? Right? What happens when we are no longer present? What happens when we begin to give all our agency away, whether you are a person with leadership or a person that is, following a leader or whatever the case may be? Can you see yourself somewhere in this narrative, somewhere in this story? And then some shit is popping off. So as some shit is popping off, now you got to go. And when you go, you have these two that come back with a different report, which took courage. Now, inside of this courage, there's still an opportunity to look at this story differently. Could there have been space? Could have there been an opportunity? Let's go with the old school perspective. Could have there been an opportunity to argue with God about how this shit was going to go down? Could there have been an opportunity to reframe and rethink what would it take to have safety and security? Can anybody hear me? Like, that shit is profound. It's profound to think the harm that people can do, how far the heart of humans can go in order to meet the wound at its inception, and not from a place of trying to heal it, but from a place of wanting to revamp and reamp the survival mechanisms. This is real, right? It's just, you see it clearly when you're looking at the dynamics that are playing out right now in real time. When we are actually on a planet where each human has the utmost regard for the other, then the world would be a different place. Until then, we get to look at these stories and go, there are choices here that can be made. And that part of being this divine spark, part of being this thing that you are, part of all of this journey that you've taken up until this time, you went through the initial, got free in these areas, or some of these areas are going well or prosperous, abundant, fill in the blank. Then all of a sudden the honeymoon shifts and things just start getting a little wacky, and you have no idea what to do with it. And you're at a place where you're wondering and you're gathering to yourself the same old relationship or the same old part or the same old perspective, right? Like, here you are at a place where your light can be extraordinarily powerful amidst the darkness, amidst the complaining, amidst the fucking different reports that you're hearing. the long journey that you've been on, whether this is like personal, all of the things, however you want to lay it. I want you to understand that there is a choice and an opportunity to transform how we relate to this. And if this parasha portion is not going to give us more, it gives us a little bit more, because in here we have some sacrifices and their accompaniment. We have the challah, the offering of the first dough, of the little ball of dough. Inadvertent communal and individual wrongs, a case of willful Shabbat violation, and the Lord tzitzits. Okay? And it's fascinating to me, the things that are accompanied in that part of the story, right? Like the way this is coming together. How do we get to be people? How do we get to the place where we can begin to become students of these patterns and these behaviors at a collective level, so that we can choose differently, so that you can choose differently, so that I can choose differently, and so that as I'm making these choices in my time, my turn, my generation, I can make different choices than my mother made and my grandmother. Not out of disrespect, not out of some sort of misplaced loyalty to an old frame because it feels familiar, but a deep respect for, as far as the things have had capacity to go, we must go further. And what do I mean by that? What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is that your light, the thing that you bring, the who you are, the experiences that you have had, the injustices that you have experienced and or seen, the ways that you have felt deeply for the humanity of others, is a powerful gift to have in a time when it looks like everything's on fucking fire. But you don't have to be on fire yourself to know that there's fire. This is a rough analogy or metaphor, whichever one, right? But that you can recognize that here lies something that can be different, that can be transformed, that if cared for well, can sustainably hold us through the roughest of times. What does it look like for you to acknowledge the season, the cycles, and the times while still maintaining enough sovereignty and agency to make a different decision, to choose a different perspective? What if your light can be the thing that creates a model that only encourages people to step into their own agency? What would that look like for you to choose that? And I'm going somewhere here a little bit deeper and a little bit more personal. We started out with the collective, this collective wound, the collective suffering, the stories, the bickering, the difference in report. Easy to judge those other motherfuckers that came back with that crazy ass side report. But if you contextualize the journey, if you look at it as a season of having walked through a desert almost to quote unquote a promised land, I think that there's something here that we can reframe and transform, that we can argue for, that people don't have to be displaced, misplaced, disbelong, but that there's space enough for all of us. And that we're not going to accept anything less than that standard. And that we will not walk around fracturing any further, because that seems a little, it's like a setback to do that, to go back to the story, to go back to the way that the perspective, the complaining or the overcompensating. Choose your archetype. It would be reductive to do that. What if we chose something new? What if we chose something different? What if instead of me thinking that caring for myself well somehow is being selfish or somehow self-centered, when if I know that I'm drinking water, my well-being is tended, my stomach has food, and I have shelter, I can only show up so much more vibrantly and have so much to give from. And I always caveat this with the idea that some folks only know their own comfort. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the givers who give. I'm talking about the healers who heal. I'm talking about the priestess who priestess. I'm talking about the magical, mystical motherfuckers out there that give a shit in such a big way that you've been doom scrolling to no end because you can't seem to unhinge because you give a shit. But if you give a shit, then you understand the long game we are in. And I hate that comparison, but we're also experiencing a game that is afoot. And the fools playing the game are wrecking everything, right? And so we have to understand and have enough wisdom to know what chess move is happening so that we can also be in presence with what we can support. But you can't hang on that. You've got to come back in. You've got to replenish. Don't overcompensate and don't underestimate. Check where you're at. Check what is it in your hands that you can do, because we will need people that fucking clear. And if on top of what we're already experiencing and watching, we're any more dysregulated and have no grounding opportunities, we're going to be in big trouble. Because there is more, but you cannot show up for more. You cannot show up for the collective. You will not be available to come and bring us the new technology, the new thing that is going to support our journey. Whatever that is, for whomever it is. Do you understand what I'm saying? You may not be for everybody, but you are for some people. And for the love of all that is holy, do not hinge everything that you have and everything that you are on that identity either. You must be whole moving forward. You must be whole moving forward. What do I mean by that? I mean that I get to be all of the things that I am at once, everything, everywhere, all at once. I get to be that in my fullness without leaving anything behind, without needing to be one dimension or another, but that I am all the things. And I joke around about this. I'm a bread baker, a cigar smoker, and a priestess. I'm a mother. I'm a single woman, right? Like, I am a teacher. I'm a daughter. I am a sister. I am the relations of an earth that is much bigger than me. I get to bring all of this. No fragmentation, no fraction, no distraction, no retraction. No suppression, no depression, no compression, just fully being, making sure that my roots are watered, making sure that I have shelter, making sure that my people do, my community does. Not that I'm wrapped up all in myself. How are we doing? Where are we at? And if one takes care of another and the other and so on and so forth, and in little pods and little groups, then no matter what happens, we will always be okay. Because we've understood the assignment. Because we know the stock that we are made of as people and as humans who have chosen to believe in love, joy, peace, all of the things. And that's what I want to call your attention to. So when this parasha portion opens with, when it opens with like this, the griping and the grumbling and the idea of sending for yourself. If we hold that idea, then I would like you to entertain the possibility that Shelach Lecha, sending for yourself, is your opportunity to redefine what it means and what it looks like to be light. To be light. And the road to be light, Lighthtlite. I don't know, if you want to get a little funky with it, it could just be LIT. Right? The road to that, the road is actually taking care of yourself and one another with such exquisite fucking care. We learned all about this trauma shit. We learned all about fight, flight, fright, and freeze, and fawn. I don't know, now maybe making up shit. All the fuckers, all the Fs. We learned about it so that we could understand, understand what has been missing or not enough articulation around it, because I don't even think it's missing. When you look at the healing modalities available to us, both ancient and modern, all them motherfuckers actually talk about the body. Now, some folks are trying to transcend the whole thing, and some folks are trying to be the earth, right? We have a whole mix of archetypes, but nonetheless, it is available to us, the remembering that if we take care of this thing, this container that we live in, this beautiful body that's been holding, the mind, the soul, all the pieces, then we will have what we need to take care of one another, because no one who really takes care of their whole self, WHOLE, can look at another human being and entirely dismiss their care. And I was specific, WHOLE, their whole self. And I don't know about you, but I think ever since I came out my mama's belly, it's been a thing to be whole, to be full, to be unfeathered. You know, it reminds me of those old cartoons where they would like add the feathers, cover the person, but add the feathers. But I wish to be fully myself, and I hope that so do you. And I hope that you can do it from a perspective of understanding your place, your assignment, or assignments, whichever rocks your boat, whichever makes sense for you. It is a whole universe. So I know that we're experiencing a lot of discouraging, challenging moments. And we don't know what's ahead. I mean, we know somewhat. And we know we're in for a rough ride. But I also know that rough rides can have cushions. Rough rides can be well supported. I know that rough rides don't last forever. And I know that the more padding, the more cushion a ride has, the gentler and more easeful the experience, especially when it's together. And if easeful sounds like a crazy concept to you right now, you better start rethinking that, because your nervous system, your DNA, and every being touched by your what is that, the top layer, your bio, I forgot what it's called, but you know what I mean, your biome. Your microbial biome is going to be impacted by the frequency and the vibration that you hold in your body. It matters. It really fucking matters. So how about we won't let classism, ableism, racism, all the isms take from us anymore. Because that's not the end of the story. So I hope that this has been a blessing for you. I hope it's been nourishing for you. I hope that Shalach Lecha, I hope that you can see this the thing for yourself from a different perspective. So go send yourself to check out the ways that the stories can be different, the ways that you can reframe, the ways that you can be whole, WHOLE, and the ways that your connection with that which is greater, call it love, call it spirit, Hashem, Oya, Oshun, Yemaya, Kali, Ma, call Shekhinah, Elat, Ima, whatever you want to call, El Shaddai, Adonai, whatever you want to call, Elohim. Let it be your connection to the all that reminds you to take care of yourself and take care of each other. And that in all you're choosing, choose life. And while there may be some things we can't do anything about right now that are going on, I'll tell you what the fuck we can choose is how we treat each other here, right now. How you treat me, how I treat you, how I treat me, how you treat you. All of the things. That we have a choice in. So I wish you well. I wish you blessing. Let me read the blessings after the Torah. I don't even know how I'm doing this without my glasses. And then I'm like turning the book because I'm trying to see. It ain't right. I'm telling you, I'm hot right now. I'm sweating again. Anyway, I'm sweating again. I hate it. Blessed is the indwelling spirit of the world who has given us a teaching of truth, has planted the life, I'm sorry. Let me start that again. Blessed is the indwelling spirit of the world who has given us a teaching of truth and planted the life of the universe within us. Blessed are you, Shekhinah, who gives Torah. I really wish you a week in which I hope you have an altar for grief. I hope that you are whatever element speaks most to you, have a place where you and your family can put, family, office, whoever, can put a bowl of water, candle, or whatever feels accessible. But don't carry it in your bones. That doesn't work. It just perpetuates. Let's not do that. So I hope that this week you have your altar, a place, dedicated place. You don't have to call it an altar. Where you can leave the tears, where you can leave the heaviness and put it, not as if it doesn't exist, but give it a container, give it a place. And then choose life. And then check, do you need water? Are you hungry? And then check on your people. And then, hasta luego, mi gente.